Alright guys, it's Scott with Barbecue Smoke and Fire. We're going to trim up a brisket tonight because it's going to hit the grill or smoker at midnight. It's going to be a long smoke, but certain ways to do this. The big thick fatty parts on here, you gotta get off. You don't want that big fat. It's not going to render down. Some of the small fat like this is perfectly fine. But the big stuff, you got to get off there. So you want to take a really sharp knife, get in and cut off as much of the big fat as you can. I mean, that's just a hunk of crap that you don't need. You got to figure out how deep it is, so cut a little bit deeper. It's cool if you cut into the meat, doesn't really matter. As long as you can get that huge, I mean, look at how deep that thing goes. You have no idea how deep it goes until you hit meat. I'd much rather hit meat and just be happy with it than have a big hunk of crap on there that's not going to cook down, not going to render down. So you're going to come in at different angles sometimes. Do what you got to do to get that chunk of crap out. This is a full packer. This is actually a 10-pound brisket. So it's definitely going to need some love and tenderness to get this thing to where we need it before we throw it on the smoker. So we're starting early. It's about 10 o'clock. No, 10:30-ish. Florida time. Alright, the next thing is this whole backside. Just nothing but fat. Nothing but fat. You want to literally just come in, just carve that whole piece of fat off as much as you can. If you can get the whole thing and you got a sharp blade, you're better off. I mean, just huge chunk of fat, unneeded. Not gonna help your cook. It's cool, like you can feel down it, and if you can feel down that it's, you know, like when you pinch it, you can tell it's maybe 1/8 of an inch or something like that. Don't worry about it. Cut the big chunks off. Get rid of those. None of that shit's needed. It's just a waste of time. Backside. Alright, this one looks like the butcher actually did pretty damn well. But you want to kind of check it out and just do a couple slices. Figure out where it's at. Because you only want about 1/4 inch of fat on this big old brisket. And a lot of times butchers don't do it. If you buy it at the store, it's not going to be cut down. So just check the thick ends and make sure that everything is about 1/4 inch. When you get to the 1/4 inch part, you're good to go. Like right here, boom, just nothing but thick fat that not going to render down. Get rid of it. Get rid of all this crap. A lot of butchers will actually do it and have it, you know, competition style, whatever you want to call it, but just ready to actually cook. If you buy it from the store, typically you have to do this yourself. If you're a novice, you don't have a clue what you're doing, and if you don't cut it, you're basically just screwed during the cook because it's not going to do anything but mess up your cook. So I'm going to keep cutting this down, get it cut up, and we'll catch back up. Alright, ladies and gents, so I like to season my brisket with salt, pepper, heavily cracked pepper. Granted, this year we've been running around so much that I'm not making my own seasoning. So what I'm doing, I'm using Four Rivers, which is absolutely amazing. Four Rivers up in Tampa and down in Florida, like, oh my God, their barbecue is so good. But it is a cracked pepper and sea salt, heavy, thick salt blend that has got some paprika, some garlic, some other stuff in it. Totally like dead nuts what you want to put on a brisket. What I like to do is heavily coat it. And I mean heavily coat it as much as you possibly can. And I like to let it sit for about 30 minutes with all the seasoning so that it just soaks it in. It'll start to bleed. Not actually blood, but it'll start to bleed. You'll know what I mean if you're an actual cooker and you know what the hell's going on. But it will legitimately start to just leak once you let this sit there. So we're going to do one side, we're going to let it sit. Then we're going to flip it over. I'm going to do the fat side. And we'll be back. Alright, so it has sucked in all the joy of the seasoning for 30 minutes on each side. It was done. So we're going to move from here, head out to the Traeger. Alright, so it's been sitting for 30 minutes in there with the seasoning on there. You're going to put the thick side to the top side of your Traeger, if you have a Traeger, because there's a drip pan. Center is where the heat comes from. Heat always rises, so you want to put the thick part towards the top. So, on that note, pick it up. It's seasoned on both sides. Boom. Throwing it on. Alright, next, what are you going to do? This is a packer. So, you got your flat, you got your big side. You're going to do it in the middle. Go ahead and stick your probe. I'm doing 2 probes. One. Just make sure that this thing has been cooked to perfection. Just to make sure I can pull it at 160 and wrap this sucker in some butcher paper. Once this thing's wrapped in butcher paper, it's going to continue cooking until it hits 203. Then we're going to wrap it up in a towel, throw it in the cooler, boom. 2 hours, let it suck in some juices. Depending on what time the family gets here, it could be up to 5 hours. I don't know. A lot of people are late arrivals, but shit happens. So, gotta do what you gotta do. Throw it in the Yeti, get it done. As long as it's in there, it's still sucking up juices, still keeping warm, and we're gonna eat some damn good brisket. Alright, we'll check it out on the cut.
Alright guys, so it's now 6 o'clock in the morning. We had one hit 170, one hit 160. Then you hit it with the instant read. It is dead nuts at 160, which is what you want. So at this point we're going to take it off. I'm going to wrap it, and I'm going to throw it back on here and let it ride out. Alright, I got it wrapped up in butcher paper, threw it back on. I'm going to throw the probes back in it, and we're going to ride this out until we hit 203. Considering it took 6 hours on a 10 pounder, I'm assuming that we should be done around noon, 1 o'clock, but I guess we'll find out. Let's see if we hit this stall. Alright, we'll be back.
Check it out, it's got 2 awesome ones.
Ooh.
What?